we would consider that urgent. We'd ask the patient to direct themselves to a more urgent environment. When the patient clicks end consultation, they cannot continue any further. This consultation just got not get submitted to practice and then advised to contact more urgent services. I'm not going to end the consultation here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to change my answer to no here. No temperature, no profuse sweating, no vomiting, no blood in my urine, no cloudy urine, no stinging or burning when I pee. I'm peeing like normal. And have I had problems with my back before? No. No unexplained weight loss and no surgery in the last couple of weeks. I'm also going to upload a photo. So there's an option here for a patient to upload a photo. There's a disclaimer warning that's presented before the patient uploads. I'm going to advise I do want to, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to add a photo that's just sitting on my local drive. It's not a picture of my back, but it will suffice for the purpose of the demo. Nothing else I wish to add. And then we just take a little bit of background about the patient's health, any drugs they may be on, for example. Their cough status, so moderate drinking, have smoked in the past but not anymore, no allergies, not had COVID in the last month, and then just other details. So these are my personal details. Again, this has been pulled through from my NHS login account. My name, my surname. I'm going to put my address in as our company address. So find here, MyMed. My contact details, again, pulled in from my NHS login account, so my phone number and my email address. The request is, do I wish to be seen by a particular member of the team? I'm going to say no. And here the patient has the option of being either opting into a one-time survey, and about 15% of patients opt into this one-time survey. And as a patient, I can have an option of having my consultation answers emailed back to me just for my records. I'm not going to opt into either of those. Submit the consultation. That consultation is submitted. The configured timeline for response on our test practice is by the end of the next working day, so by close of business tomorrow. So that's the timeline that's provided to the patient. That again is configurable by the practice, some worsening care advice, and just some best practice for the patient in regards to any attempt for the practice to contact them. This is also emailed to the patient as a confirmation email. So that part is now done. Now I'm going to move to the smart inbox. And I'm hoping everybody can still see my screen. And please tell me if you can't. Great. Now the smart inbox, to access the smart inbox, we use NHS Mail single sign-on. So I'm going to log into it here. Now, I want to illustrate, this is currently a production environment. So it hasn't got the full set of features, but it gives you a look and the feel of what you will get in practice in September. So try that again. So it's going to push me through to my own NHS Mail account. I'm going to sign in with that, and it's going to push me back into the smart inbox. And this is your overview pane here. As you can see, the last one here at the bottom is the one I've literally just submitted a couple of minutes ago. That's a back problem. Before I go through that in detail, I'm just going to show you a few other features. So you've got an overview tab here. This shows me here all the open consultations. So there's 7 current open consultations. I can click in here to see the complete consultations, i.e. the ones that have been fully managed. The consultations themselves are segregated within the smart inbox between clinical and admin, and that depends on the consultation type that the patient has submitted. And within those categorizations, you've got some sub-indexing that you can choose locally. So any consultations that are waiting have not been reviewed by anybody in the practice. They are effectively unopened. You may have opened some and thought, okay, don't need to look at this one at this moment in time. I'm going to snooze it. So I've snoozed it and I'm going to come back to it later. You may have some consultations that you've sent a patient a message. You may, bear with me 1 second, let me just go to that. You may have some consultations where you've sent the patient a message and you're waiting a response. So it may be that you've sent a patient a message trying to get an additional photo from the patient. And before you manage it beyond that point, you want that photo to come back in. Or you've done the initial triage, i.e. you've looked at the inbox, you've allocated that to a particular healthcare professional or within your multidisciplinary team, and it's ready for management, full management. And you have the same sub-indexing here within the admin features. In addition, just to pop here, we are also using the same functionality to develop our own eHub model So I'll go over that in a little bit more detail as I go through the rest of the slides. But if I, as a clinician, was associated to an eHub, it'd say, this is my practice, but the eHub practices would be listed underneath. I'm currently not associated to an eHub, but if I were, that's what I'd be able to see. We also have this intercom feature here. So this is a support feature that's available to all users. So you've got a series of self-help guides and articles, and you can search for those in the free text bar. Or if you wish to send us a message, the support team will reply typically within under 5 minutes. And as you can see, the wait time here is under 5 minutes at this moment in time. And that's available at any time that that smart inbox is being used. Now I'm going to show a couple of features at the top here. So you've got a sort feature. I can decide how I want my overview of this queue of the queue that I'm looking at to be reviewed. So I can do it by time received. At the moment, it's configured from oldest to newest, but I can change that from newest to oldest if I wish. I can also do it by age. Some practices may want to look at pediatric consultations in the first instance because they believe that the acuity index there can maybe higher. So again, you can sort those by youngest to oldest, oldest to youngest. And in a similar instance, you can look at the number of flags within the report itself. So least to most or most to least. And the flags potentially indicate the acuity level of the consultation itself. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to leave it at time received. I'm going to apply that. And once that's done, I can look at the consultation. So this is the consultation I've just submitted. Before I go in any level of detail, just overview. My name is here, submission date, time, when I as patient would expect a response, any flags that are present within the consultation itself. And if I just click this little option here, it will give me my patient details. So my date of birth, my NHS number, which has been pulled through from my NHS login account, my gender, my contact details, and my home address. Now, the consultation itself follows the same structure as the report I showed earlier, but the only difference is it's now visible within the smart inbox, and you would manage it from within the smart inbox. So your ideas, concerns, expectations, any clinical questions you may have, any flags and free text responses from the patient, confirmation from the patient that they've accepted any risk regarding uploading of photos, my QOF and any health background, and then the photo that I attached. And the next part I'd like to walk through is the signposting option. Now, this is really where you as a team would collaborate much better using the smart inbox because of how you'd workflow tasks between yourselves. So here, currently, this is a new consultation. It's completely unassigned. And if I were a reviewing clinician doing the initial triage, I could say, okay, who's the most appropriate person within my team to review this consultation? It's a back pain complaint, MSK. I may say if I've got physio as part of within my as an ARS role or within my multidisciplinary team, I'm going to allocate it to a physio. Within the initial triage, I can say, okay, I've got moderate back pain, no real urgent flags and anything to worry about. Maybe I could say, I may feel that a 48-hour response is suitable. I can leave that unassigned. It's my prerogative. I can also recommend a modality of contact. Again, I can leave that unassigned, but I on initial triage may feel that actually, just some analgesia and local self-management is suitable. So I may just say an email response is probably okay on the initial triage. It's coming as a clinical consultation because that's a consultation type I submitted. I can change that if I think that's required. And then I can change the status. So at the moment it's waiting. I've just finished the review. I can say, okay, I've triaged it. And the last bit at the bottom, I can add a comment. So I can say from my perspective, triaged, okay for 48-hour response. And I save that. Now, once I save all of those changes, I come back out of that consultation. Now, this is the consultation that I submitted, which you can see it here. It's been added to the physio, 48-hour response. You can see the comment that I've added, but also if I look at the logbook and I look at all comments, I can see all activity on that consultation. So I've changed the status to triage, I've assigned it to a physio, I've assigned a response window, recommended a response modality, and I've added a comment. Now, in regards to seeing that, if I was a physio and I wanted to see that queue, then I could come back here, back into the main panel or the main pane, and I could say, well, where is this? What do I want to see? Do I want to see what team has been assigned to or the level of urgency? So I've assigned that to a physio. I want to see the physio's queue, apply that filter, and I can see all the consultations added to the queue. And right at the bottom here, because it's still sorted by time received oldest to newest, we can see the consultation that I've added into the work list for the physio. Now, as a physio, I may review this, I may action some work, and once I've managed it, I can mark it as complete, save those changes. The consultation has now exited the open triage queue and it's sitting in the completed queue, as you can see here. Now, just to illustrate that this is our test environment, it currently doesn't integrate with the back-end clinical system. In September, this will completely integrate with the back-end clinical system. So any work you undertake here will write back into the patient record. Static codes will be coded in. So consultation type, BMI, for example, will be coded in as static codes and also write back into the patient record. You'll also have a SNOMED code picker built in. So if you want to add any clinical codes, those codes will be added in here and again, right back into the patient record as part of the fully managed consultation. Okay. So that live demonstration actually works reasonably well, I hope. I'm going to move on. Now, there is a lot of development still to do within Smart Inbox. The contact modalities are still to be added in, but they are all planned and ready to, that we believe they'll be ready to launch in September. So SMS and email will be available. In the meantime, for any users who are currently using the platform, we do have our toolbar still available. The toolbar still has all the messaging features that are in the Smart Inbox. So SMS and email are available. Two-way SMS is available, although we recommend that all users wait until the Smart Inbox is available purely because of how the information flows and the ability to segregate it. At the moment, two-way messaging goes back into the clinical system and it can be very difficult to segregate. So we don't recommend it unless you've got a really clean, confident SOP. You also have integrated self-help functionality that you can issue a digital prescription back to the patient. And you obviously got video and telephony contact options that sit within the toolbar. Now, even when the Smart Inbox becomes available, the toolbar will still be an important part of our functionality. And the reason being is the Smart Inbox is a cloud-based inbox. EMIS and System 1 currently do not have cloud-based APIs that integrate with the end-user clinical system available. So we use the toolbar as our integration vehicle effectively, which links our cloud-based Smart Inbox with your clinical system. So even if you never use the toolbar is your interoperability link between the Smart Inbox and the clinical system. So we would still need practices to run it in the background, but you never have to interact with it. It can be minimized and it will just be left on and it continues working in the background. As you work from the Smart Inbox, you don't have to action anything on the toolbar. Action all activity within the Smart Inbox. Everything will write back into the home clinical system. If I move on, you've got a series of customization features. The options that are currently available are you can manage your response time. You may choose to respond to the patient by the end of the next working day. You may choose same-day response times. You may choose a 2-hour response time. That's your prerogative. You can select the template types that you wish. So you may choose not to have pediatric content available or have it available. You can activate the chronic disease and review templates, travel templates. Again, that's your choice to customize your offer back to your patient population. Demand management functionality is already available. That is largely ad hoc demand management functionality. So ad hoc would mean that you can snooze your availability. You can also today time your availability, i.e. your open and close hours. But from the middle of this month, we're also going to be rolling out capping. So you'll be able to schedule your capping in regards to add a daily cap for the number of consultations you can receive. You can also mix and match. So you can have on and off availability. So you may say, I want to cap the number of consultations and I only want to provide an in-hours offer to my patients. Out of hours, the platform, the consultation engine is not available. So you can mix and match those offers. And that full suite, 2 of those features are already available, but the full suite will be available from the middle of this month, and we're actively rolling that out to practices. One of the last bits I want to talk about is the eHub. I've touched on it already. About 5 years ago, we helped the development of the first ever eHub across the UK, which is still live, which is seeing 3,000 odd consultations a month across 100,000 patients. With the announcement of the DES funding back to PCNs, as well as actually just a lot of pressure from PCNs and from NHS England to support practices in federating their online consultation model. We think this is the next step for most users. So we've taken the inbox and we've supercharged it. We've added AI. So your allocation within the smart inbox is automated based on a machine learning algorithm, and which just carries on learning. So we're going to be rolling that out in November within the smart inbox for eHub users. And actually, we think this is as we said, we think this is the future. It provides a consistent patient management experience. It enhances resilience and retention. You get better aligned working across the PCN, better use of your multidisciplinary teams, particularly your R's roles. And actually, there's a significant benefit from a economy of saving from particularly your back office and your admin functions. So we think this is the future of how majority of how online consultation services is going to be provided within 24 months. And that's the end of the consultation. Happy to take consultation. That's the end of the presentation. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thanks, Aman. I'm just checking if there's any hands up.
Sure.
Can I just say there were some questions in the chat? I did my best to answer most, but Steve Sharp has been keeping me really busy. And so the one question I didn't answer yet was how does it feed back into EMIS if the patient didn't use their NHS ID, for example?
Okay, so if the patient hasn't used NHS login, so there's a difference between patient matching and patient verification. Patient verification is undertaken by NHS login. What would happen is the patient submits and they don't use NHS login. What the clinical system will try and do is attempt to match the patient submission to their patient record. So that matching would still happen, and actually EMIS matching is pretty strong. EMIS a first time match is circa 90%. So the matching still happens irrelevant of NHS login. If NHS login is used, your matching is nearly 100%. I hope, Stephen, I hope that answers the question. Happy to share the slides. I'll share the slides outside of a Google Doc. I'll share them as a PDF, so it's just a little bit easier to disseminate across the group. So that's not a problem.
Sorry, there was one from Mike Walton.
Mm-hmm.
I see health history and QoF questions section. Will there be questions? Will these questions be locally configurable?
Yes. So one of the things we will be doing within the QoF and the Your Health questions is practices will have the option of either deactivating them completely, keeping them on permanently, or snoozing them. So what we want to be able to do is if a patient has submitted a consultation, for example, and this is just by way of an example, you as a practice may choose that I want to refresh the QoF questions every 4 weeks. So if the patient has submitted the consultation within the last 4 weeks, we won't ask the QoF questions. If they haven't, then we will. And you can choose that period. It's going to be your prerogative. So at the moment, they're a part of the static part of the question set, but they will become options for you to be able to control as a practice.
Aman, I think the question, Steve, was, is that information pulled from eConsult into EMIS and basically coded?
At the moment, it isn't, but it will be coded as part of the smart inbox. So all static codes, any QoF codes will be coded as part of the patient submission and written back into the patient record automatically. The only codes that won't automatically be coded are codes that need clinical verification. And that's where within the smart inbox, we're going to integrate a Snowmed code picker. So you can code within the smart inbox. And when you write the completed consultation back into the record, it's fully coded. I hope that answered the question as well. Is there anything else that we've missed?
I think that's everything from the chat. I could be wrong. So we'll open the floor for anybody else to ask any questions.
I've got a question, Aman. So I was on a call yesterday with Patrick Johnson, who's the program manager for the NHS app. Sure. And obviously there was quite a lot of releases yesterday about the NHS app and things that are going to happen. Could you tell us just a bit about eConsult's vision of the NHS app as far as online consultations and being able to log them via the NHS app go, please?
Sure. So at the moment, as a patient, I can access the NHS app and log my consultation. I think That's the first step in how do we make this a little bit more of an inclusive experience. So what we really want to be able to do, and I know this is now available through the NHS app and the product team is working with them on this, is how do we send push notifications for management of those consultations back into the app? One of the things that we're very aware of is the system itself. We've got various system pools. We've got the system pools that SMS has become an integral part of how practices manage consultations or manage workload. But there is a cost implication that sits with SMS, which has been borne by the system. We think the future of this is really using push notifications back into the app, which is effectively cost-free, provides a much better, more robust experience for the patient to keep on coming back. And we just, there's a hell of a lot of data out there how patients integrate or how they use apps within their smartphone. If their first experience is poor, they're very likely to come back. And I'm sure many people on this call have got lots of apps on their phone. Probably 75% of them don't get used. I know I certainly have. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with the app teams to how do we make this more inclusive experience. So the first thing is going to be the push notifications. The second thing is at the moment, how you offer a patient's appointment is your appointment book that you open up. We want to use the GP Connect API to be able to put triage appointments as part of a consultation back out to the patient. So the practice says, okay, this is not urgent. I can see you in a week. The offer to the patient is to book into appointment slots so the practice is triaged back into the patient, rather than opening up the whole appointment book and the patient gets lucky and sees an appointment that's available today and books in today, even though it's not urgent. So the theory is we can use a lot more control in this interface. So the app is probably, from a patient-facing perspective, is a key part of our development, where we were first to market with the NHS app. We've been working with them consistently. In fact, a lot of the other providers, we were the alpha tester in the app, and a lot of the other integrations have been done on the back of the work that we did with the NHS digital team. So we'd like to think we're, at least 12 months ahead of everybody else in this space, and particularly also from a relationship perspective. So that work's continuing.
Thanks.
Hope that helps. Hope that helps, David.
Yeah. Do you know, have you got any sites in our area that are trialing the NHS app with eConsult?
Every single practice that is currently an eConsult user, their patients are registered to be able to access by the NHS app. Okay. So there's no config on the practice side. Yep. So every time we launch a practice, we send a notification back to the NHS digital team and they activate the app for that practice with eConsult. Perfect.
Thanks. Steve Sharp, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I missed the very beginning. I mean, does the app eConsult, if a patient puts in a certain condition, will it take them through a filtering system? So will it recommend, advise, like to go and see a pharmacist and all this first? Or is experience basically they ignore that information and come to the GP practice anyway? So trying to reduce the amount of work coming into the practice for us to come to us and only for us to kick it back out again.
I agree, and there is a mixed experience here. So you can offer effectively a disposition back to the patient. So there are providers out there that have gone down that road of saying, we think that you should go to a pharmacy. Superficially, that sounds like a strong offer. For a lot of practices, it does. The reality is, for patients, it's driven by the patient's desire for the type of interaction that they want. So what we tend to find is if you surface a prescriptive interaction back to the patient, it wasn't their intention to get that interaction, they just revert back to type. And if you force someone down a particular channel, they'll end up just coming back in and phoning you. So the way we've always done it is it's patient choice. Patient makes a decision as to which avenue they choose to use. The app doesn't filter at this moment in time. There is also something about how do you get accreditation for that. So we're in sort of MHRA territory here. Class 2 means that if you're going to push a patient into a particular journey, that journey is going to be structured around your clinical device regulations and the fact that you're providing a disposition. We only have 2 parts of our platform covered under MHRA, and that's the PHQ-9 GAD-7 area and the Epworth Sleepiness Score, because we're passing out a score. So there was a feeling that we have to be covered under MHRA for those 2. We are pursuing Class 2 accreditation for the platform, so we can think about dispositions in the future, but we're not there yet.
I know. Stella said in the chat that you are, or you may already be, or you're looking to do is link in. So the eConsult which is sent in, we can forward directly into the CPS system.
Correct. That was the next part I was going to go to. So we are working with the CPCS team. What you will see in the coming months is a consent collection piece within eConsult. So as a patient, I can provide my consent to have my consultation passed to a consulting pharmacist, a community pharmacist rather. The next stage actually is to work with the CPCS team to see potentially either you manually move that consultation. So you do initial triage in practice, you say, okay, that's pharmacy appropriate, and I can move it into a queue in the smart inbox. And a pharmacist, your community pharmacist, has got the same smart inbox, but they can only access their queue. And they look at the same consultation in their queue. So it becomes their work stream. The other option here is that actually we use the AI within the eHub to move that automatically via a scraping tool. So we say, okay, that's pharmacist appropriate. It meets the requirements under the community pharmacy scheme, and we can move it directly to that queue. That's where we think that the benefit lies. So that's going to be low acuity stuff out. And potentially for you to even, one of the other ones we're looking at the moment is some sort of 2-week waits on cancer referral pathway. So if you do see, we collect a consultation that's got cancer markers, we can potentially automatically move that into a 2-week wait pathway. And we're investing in that work with Guy's and St Tommy's at the moment, and they're very keen to progress that. So we see that's probably more appropriate vehicle, because actually patients are still managed by you, but you are moving them into the most appropriate pathway. So the CPCS conversation is very live and it is progressing, and the first stage of that is going to be available via the consent piece in probably in the next sort of 60 days.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Masood, you got your hand up?
Yes, hello. I'm still one of the doctors in the surgery. I'm slightly struggling with the stats and the numbers. So if I review what you said was 15% of the population list will use it. And those 15% are usually the tech-savvy patients, usually the younger generation rather than the older generation, although anything it can be.
No. So what I would look at is the 15% of patients that I indicated in the first slide. Those are the 15% of patients that would go enter the platform, and they would utilize either the self-help or the signposting options, and then divert themselves away from general practice. So they're not all the users; they're the proportion of users that start a journey and don't conclude a consultation journey back into practice. They're the types of users that would either divert themselves back to pharmacy or to a self-care type environment.
Thank you.
Okay.
But then the other question I have, if you said there's 70 to 90% of them, of these eConsult, they will divert it from face-to-face consultation. Nowadays, we don't have all of our consultation face-to-face.
Correct.
So how do you clarify that?
So 79 to 90% is a mix of either you've now downgraded the requirement from a face-to-face to a further telephone follow-up. So you've seen the consultation. You have 1 or 2 points of clarification, and you contact the patient for a quick call to clarify those points and manage the patient remotely via call. Or alternatively, the structured history is giving you enough information alongside the patient record for a full remote management episode. So you can either send a message back to the patient to advise them what their next steps could be, a management plan. You could issue a script directly to their nominated pharmacy and send the message back to the patient to advise them to collect their prescription. And that would require no secondary synchronous contact. So about anything between 30 to 40% of all consultations can be managed just with a secondary message, no telephone call. The rest of that 70 to 90% would require a telephone call just for points of clarification. And that's largely dependent on the level of information provided by the patient, but also the confidence of the reviewing clinician in regards to managing workload in that guise.
So do you have any data that shows how many extra contact has been produced by eConsult? Because at the moment, what I can see, when I spoke with my colleagues in other surgeries, I gathered information around 5 to 8% of the population will get weekly eConsult. So for a surgery for our size of 40,000 patients, I should expect we are going to have 2,000 to 3,000 eConsult a week.
Yep.
So managing this amount of eConsult a week is a huge job.
Agreed.
So, and that is not a hard cases. If I, as a doctor, when I say a hard case is a patient which has a heart failure, is a housebound, it doesn't have any access to any of these cases, are easy cases we have. So if I'm going to have that amount of extra workload,
sure,
how eConsult has helped surgeries to reduce the workload? Because all I can see is extra layer of workload and extra access and platform for extra demand, which in normal basis, patient not bothered to call surgery.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. So I think the key thing here is that we shouldn't be thinking about this as extra workload. There will always be the access provision itself will potentially create a channel whereby patients who wouldn't otherwise access would access. Now, the way we've tried to manage that is effectively the patient's commitment to time. So there is this fine balance, and we are often stuck between a rock and a hard place, because the feedback we often get is, guys, your templates are too long. Okay, great, I can shorten the template. If I shorten the template, you're going to get more consultations. So which one do you want? On the flip side, I want better remote management, which means I need more information, which means the patient gets a longer template. So there's this really fine point in the middle that you want to get to say, okay, has the patient committed enough time to make it feel like it's worthwhile their input? But at the same point, as a practice, are you getting the correct dividend in the consultation to allow you to have the most effective treatment episode with that patient? So at the moment, by way of an example, it takes a patient on average up to about 11 minutes to complete an eConsult. Now we can pull that time down, we can remove questions, we can make it easier, but all you're going to see is greater throughput of consultations with poorer quality information that requires more follow-up by you at practice. So what we're trying to do is provide you with good histories that allow you a good level of structured remote management. The objective is that you replace some activity, you don't add activity. We're not asking you to say you're going to do everything you do in clinic today, plus you're going to put 2,000 consultation eConsults on top of it. We want you to remove 2,000 contacts from your work stream and replace them with the eConsults. Now,
that is my exact question. Has this been checked and appraised to see if it's really doing it or not?
I'm happy to share case studies and data that we have from independent studies. I'm happy to share that around. The reality is a lot of this is going to be based on the confidence of the reviewing clinician to manage that workload remotely. And as human beings, we've all got different aptitudes, and some people are going to be better at face-to-face management, and some people are going to be better at telephone triage, and some clinicians are going to be better at managing e-consults. It's getting the right person doing the right work, and it's also getting the right patient into the right channel. And this is really about that removal of work. Now, the important measure here, Masood, is we understand that fear, and that's why we built in the suite of demand management tools. So actually, if you feel that your demand is excessive, or you want to build this into a rota within your clinic in regards to availability of appointments, you can limit the amount of consultations you get through. So instead of you getting, for example, Masood, 2,000 a week, you may decide I can take 500 a week to start with. And you can cap my volumes every week at 500, and I can do that via sort of a 5-day working week. And then I can decide whether that's inappropriate, appropriate, whether I want to move those numbers up or down. So there are control levers in here. We're not just going to give you an open channel that you're going to get flooded on if you think that's what you can't manage. And we do advocate that practices walk themselves into this rather than run into this, because it does take some adaptation. This is a new type of work. So David, happy to share. I'll pass back any sort of case studies, evaluation reports, etc., and I can pass those back to you, and you can circulate those around the group.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Aman. And also, Masood, as well, we've done quite a lot of work with the DFPC team where we've looked at kind of digital champions who've got specific models in and what works best. Putting caps in and only opening access between, I don't know, say 9 and 12 or whatever. It's whatever works for you, and that does seem to be the way that using these systems works better. I think we fully share your concern that if we open these systems up 24/7, especially at weekends, and come Monday morning, it wouldn't be a good scene. So if you touch base with the DFPC team, they've got lots of information of that as well, Masood as well.
Can I also add that we have a team of transformation managers who will be supporting practices in the onboarding of eConsult. So we've seen the all practices have different ambitions and goals, and they understand your pressure. So we wouldn't leave you to it. There'll be a team that will support you throughout.
Masood, does all of that help? I'm hoping it does.
I hope it does. My only concern is if you open it up, we have if you're talking 500 eConsults a day, that is not a joke. This is a lot. It's more than demand for A&E for the hospital.
Masood, completely appreciate that. That's why we've got these. That's why we've got tools in there. So we've got, as Stella said, we've got the support in there to help get your team into a position where they can manage this workload effectively. But we've got some tools in there as well to allow user practice to control the volumes you receive. So, and practices make use of that at a variable level. You know, there's a number of practices that welcome all the demand. They try and go total triage. They want to go total triage with an eConsult door. That's their prerogative. We will support them in that journey if that's where they want to get to. And in that instance, we've got practices that are seeing, you know, upwards of 70% of all demand coming in through eConsult. That's their chosen model. If that's not your chosen model, fine, not a problem. We'll work with you and find out which one it is. And what I would say, just to kind of allay concerns, Masood, and everybody else on the call, that functionality is in there because we understand that there is a risk. We built those tools in because we know there's a risk. And as David said, you know, I think that's well accepted in the system. And those support tools are there for you to utilize to get the best return for your patients, but also for your team, because we understand that there's a challenge on resource already within the system. I think it's also important to note just how much information we take from the patient to allow you to make efficient decisions. The easiest thing for us to do would be to have a couple of free text boxes and say, here you go, Aman, put in whatever information you want, and we'll come back to you. And that's one thing we've always tried to veer away from, because actually that just creates lots more secondary contact because of lack of structured detail. So we're trying to approach this from two avenues. We're trying to say, how do we support your efficiency model, one, but also how do we allow you to limit volume if, for whatever reason, you can't meet that demand. You know, what we don't want is we don't want you drowning in eConsults. Absolutely not.
Man, I'm conscious of time. We've literally got a few minutes, and I'm sure people have got other meetings to go to. So I don't think there's any more questions that I can see from the floor. So I just wanted to say thanks very much, Aman and Stella, for your time. I'm sure everyone found that very useful. There is another eConsult session as well. I think it's on the 8th of July. I'll put the dates up in a minute. Actually, I'll share my screen now. 2 seconds. Here we go. All right. Can you all see that? Yeah.
Yes.
So 2 seconds. There we go. So there's the dates. We've got 2 Accurix demos coming up, and we've also got another eConsult demo on Friday, the 8th of July. I just wanted to finish off with one little slide about next steps. So what we want from you guys by, I think I mentioned before, by the end of July really, is your choice of online consultation tool. There are lots of resources available. We've got, I'm just going to nip back to this slide here. We've got the DFPC team. So there's lots of people there who can help you out, the digital facilitators. There's more technical people like me. There's also clinical people like Rachel Hazeldine and Perula who are all too happy to help in this process. So just going back, like I say, what we'll do is there's an FAQ. I think it's going out later today. So it's going to have lots of links on there to eConsult and Accurix. Digital facilitator support. We're also going to share these sessions and we'll do everything we can basically. But we have got a bit of time on this. We've got till the 31st of the 7th really, which is the deadline when we want to start implementing this. So which gives us 4 weeks to make a decision. Aman, am I right in saying that if anyone's got any questions for you guys, it's okay to drop you an email, or do you want us to go through us? What's the best way to do it? You're on mute, Aman.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine for everyone to come directly back to us. So, David, I'll email you separately with the slides, sort of reference, you know, case studies, etc. Contact email address. But in the meantime, if anybody wants to contact us, the email address is commercial@econsult.health. So I'll share those details via email.
Put that in the chat, then it's available for everyone to after the meeting's ended. Okay, excellent. Right. Well, I think. If you've got any questions, can I ask you just to email them on the DFPC email address? So I'll just actually share that again in case anyone doesn't know what that is. So that is, where are we? Should be on screen now. hartsvalleyccg@hwe.dfpc.nhs.net. And I'll actually just put that in the chat as well for everyone, just in case people don't know that address. Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up there. So I just want to say a big thank you for everyone to coming along, and hopefully we'll chat to you all soon.
Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Cheers. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Bye.